Welcome back to the Dethroning Your Inner Critic YouTube channel. I'm Joanna Kleinman, psychotherapist and CEO of the Mastering Your Mind Coaching and Consulting Company. And I want to talk to you today about the identity shift that might be happening. If your life feels a little bit like it's falling apart, this actually might be the identity shift that is required before the real work starts. Okay. So if you're feeling this, like, maybe I can't really explain it, but my career is no longer making sense. It once did, but it just doesn't feel like a fit right now. Or maybe there's a relationship that you're saying, this just doesn't feel aligned with me anymore. It just doesn't feel good when I hang out with this person. Maybe your ambition has shifted. So your tolerance for surface level conversations, it's just gone, right? And pushing through those conversations just no longer works. Maybe you're feeling called to do something more meaningful in your life, but you can't really put your finger on it. You don't know what form that's supposed to take. Okay. Now, if this is you, I want you to understand this. This does not mean that there's anything wrong. It doesn't mean you're behind in some imagined timeline. It doesn't mean that you're failing at life. It doesn't mean you've made a wrong turn. This is what is required for you to shift your life because transformation happens from the inside out. That's the identity shift. So identity shifts, especially for people who are meant to make a bigger impact in the world. And that identity shift is doesn't come gently, okay? So I want you to understand that a lot of this old identity is shedding. Now, that's the identity that I call your inner critic self that was built upon a core wound that you don't even know you've been dragging around with you for your whole life. So when we are small, we make conclusions about things that happen in our life. It doesn't even need to be anything majorly traumatic. Okay. Something happens and we feel in some way that something's wrong. And when we are children, because we are egocentric, we make that mean that there's something wrong with us. And we create a whole strategy, a whole personality, a whole identity around keeping us protected from that wound. So this is your old identity, your inner critic self. And it's shedding like a snake sheds its skin. So I am recording this in February of 2026. The last few years may have felt to you like a dismantling of that identity that you once lived from, the high achiever, the responsible one, the one that held it together, the one who followed the right path and succeeded along that right path. And yet here you are, it still feels like something's missing, okay? This isn't the breakdown. This is an initiation, okay? So you want to understand that old identity, that inner critic self was built around keeping you protected from failure and pain and judgment and feeling like in some way you're not enough. It was built upon wanting approval and credibility from the external world. It was built upon wanting to, in some way, predict and control and know how life was going to unfold. And it formed at a time when your nervous system learned what it had to do to feel like you belonged and like you were valued. And guess what? It did its job very well. But it was built, that identity was built without your conscious participation. And now it can't come with you into the life that you're really meant to live and the impact that you're meant to make in the lives of other people. So here's what's happening. Life is removing what is no longer a fit, right? Those titles lose meaning. Those roles no longer feel as important. Your motivation drops. Old goals stop inspiring you. And that can feel terrifying because when you don't yet see what's replacing them, you're sort of in this space of the unknown. Okay. So here's why you felt stuck, and here's why this matters. Many people who are meant to guide or lead or serve others tell me the same thing. And that is, I've felt stuck for years. And the truth that most people never hear is this stuckness has actually been sacred because it's the pause between who you've been and who you're becoming. And you had to sit in this space long enough to recognize which roles you've outgrown, which identities have been built on that performing, okay? And which versions of success are really no longer a match for your inner truth. Now, clarity doesn't come before this shedding. Clarity comes because of the shedding. So, this is what's known as the liminal space. And this liminal space, no one prepares you for. Okay. So, a liminal space is the space in between who you've been and who you're becoming emotionally, physically, mentally, psychologically, spiritually. Okay. So, this is why the last few years have felt so deeply uncomfortable because shedding an old identity does not feel freeing at first. It feels raw and exposed. Okay. It often looks like you're bracing for that other shoe to drop, right? Like something is about to go wrong at any minute. Okay. Now, that's what it feels like to be standing in a liminal space. It is literally a threshold between the life you've known and the one you're being shaped for, okay? This is where that old identity no longer fits and the new one hasn't stabilized. And the uncertainty can feel unbearable if you don't understand what's happening. Now, in this liminal space, this is where your inner critic gets activated big time. It gets louder, okay? Because really, what your inner critic is doing is trying to find some certainty and find some control. Your inner critic self interprets this liminal space, this uncertainty, as danger. It demands answers, it demands timelines, it demands certainty. And so the moment you enter this in between space, here comes those familiar thoughts. I should be further along right now. Something's wrong with me. Something's wrong with life. I thought I'd have this figured out. If I were really meant for more, it would be clearer. Now, these thoughts feel personal, but they are not personal. They are patterned because your inner critic has likely been running your internal world for most of your life. And because of that, your body, your nervous system clings to what's familiar, even when what's familiar is no longer a fit for who you are. So the familiar life gets mistaken for safety. So when that old identity starts to collapse, it starts to disintegrate, your inner critic self is going to panic and it says, no, no, fix this, push harder, get back to a sense of control and knowing how this is going to go. This moment, the one you're in right now, it's not something to escape from. It's not something to push harder. It's not something to figure out. It's actually the moment that decides how your life of impact is going to unfold. Okay. So here's the choice that you have right now that's going to determine your future life. Okay. So you have two choices. You can resist the collapse of the old identity. You can try to rebuild what's dissolving. You can stay loyal to the strategies and the thoughts and the beliefs and the parts of your life that once worked, even though you can feel that it no longer aligns. That's choice number one. Choice number two, you can let that old identity fall away while you stay present. You can allow the uncertainty without rushing in to try to define it. You can choose the higher version of yourself that's trying to emerge. That's your authentic self. And yes, this choice number two is terrifying because it requires staying with the discomfort without immediately turning it into how do I fix this? What's the strategy I need? How I should just work harder. I should just figure all of this out. If you can stay present instead of abandoning your truth, this is what changes everything. Okay. So presence is the gateway to true leadership. When you stay with discomfort instead of reacting to it, your nervous system actually starts to regulate, right? So that constant bracing softens, the urgency eases. And this is where you can actually hear your authentic self beginning to speak to you. Not loudly, in whispers, but very clearly. And how that clarity shows up is just a quiet knowing, a deep sense of alignment, a truth you can feel in your body. And once you can hear even the smallest guidance from this place, momentum begins to build. One insight leads to the next. One aligned step reveals the next aligned step. But you can't access this guidance if you are still living in the survival mechanism of your inner critic identity. So, this next chapter of your life is not about doing more. It's not about becoming more impressive. It is about building the internal capacity to hold the impact that you're meant to have. I promise you, your new identity will stabilize. It takes time. And during this time, your inner critic is probably going to get louder, not quieter. Again, you got to expect it. It doesn't mean you're off track. It means you're outgrowing what is known and familiar. So, here's the truth about real transformation, okay? You're going to look back at this time. You're going to realize what felt like loss and frustration and stuckness was actually perfect preparation. This is how all real transformation happens. And I know this because I have lived it over and over and over again. I can tell you the life I live today was once something I could only imagine, and I had no idea how to create it. And I built it by using the mind method consistently for many years in community. I actually needed the people in the Mastering Your Mind community who could mirror back to me who I was becoming before I fully believed it myself. And that's what we all do for each other. That's exactly what happens inside of the Mastering Your Mind community. It's where people who feel called to bring transformation into this world learn how to stay present with fear, move through their uncertainty, trust themselves deeply together. So, if you're wanting to experience any of this work, but you just want to do it in your own time, self-paced, I have a program called the Confidence Cure. It's a great place to start. I will link that in the show notes. It's a very deep, structured experience. It's really like a college course, okay? It's designed to have you understand your fears that are driving your stuckness and to be able to unhook yourself from that. So you'll find the link in that course to the show notes. If you are being called to bring transformation in the lives of others, and you have no idea where to start. The Mastering Your Mind community is a great place to start, or the Mind Method certification program. Many leaders are going through the Mind Method certification program in order to bring these concepts and these distinctions to the people that they serve. And it is truly one of the most life-changing programs out there. If you are interested in hearing more about it, please go to masteringyourmind.com, schedule some time to connect with me. I would love to explore whether this program is right for you. Thanks for tuning in today, and I'll see you at the next episode.